Brett McMurphy's been at this for quite some time, and this being covering sports and covering college football, longtime reporter for CBS Sports and also ESPN, and he broke the story over the last several days from his Facebook page as to what Urban Meyer may have known and what he did not know potentially about his wide receiver coach, Zach Smith, battering his wife. There's no other way to put it. And Brett McMurphy is here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Brett?
Good afternoon, Rich.
Good afternoon. So what do you know right now that, having maybe advanced the story from what you were already able to glean through text messages and through conversations with those involved?
Well, obviously, the Ohio State, after my report Wednesday, announced that they would investigate the allegations, and then yesterday they announced a six-man committee, special independent board working group related to the investigation. I reached out to about 24 current athletic directors across the country in the past probably 12 hours and saying, what do you guys think this means? I got, as you can expect, a lot of different opinions. The general consensus is obviously Ohio State has to find out exactly what happened. If they have any thoughts of bringing him back, that means they're going to have to be going through 4 or 5 years of text messages from Urban Meyer, from Shelley Meyer, from all their staff members, maybe even family members. And even if they do that, is there the concern that if they don't find anything and they decide to bring him back, that some other evidence comes out that he did know about 2015? Most of them believe it's basically that they're looking to reach some kind of settlement with Meyer. I guess a large part of it is if Urban decides to fight this. And if he does, then this will probably be a long, drawn-out process. 1AT was pretty animated. He basically said, in today's landscape, Ohio State's president is, I won't use his language, but blankless, scared because of what happened at Baylor, what happened at Penn State. I'm not comparing those situations with Ohio State, but basically in those situations, both the ADs and the presidents got fired. He said when things start going downhill and can be proven and lies can be proven, then everyone runs for the hills and it can get out of hand. You don't know where it goes. So he thinks that may be some of the mindset also. But ultimately, if Urban Meyer digs his heels in, then they'll conduct the investigation. I think it could go on for a long time.
But if there's no evidence that his wife did tell him, right, then and that the story might be just like how could a wife who knows about what's going on, based again on your reporting in the text messages, not tell her husband? And if Ohio State accepts that, then it's possible that despite how that might be handled internally in the Urban Meyer household.
Right.
Is that feasible? I mean,
no, Rich, they simply cannot take him at his word. And not that they don't trust him, but there's too much at risk here. And, yes, I did not find any text messages. Courtney Smith did not provide any text messages that Urban Meyer that directly said he knew about it. But when you look at the volumes of text messages she showed me back and forth between her and Shelley Meyer and other members of wives of the staff members, and then the fact that Courtney and Shelley had multiple conversations about this. Shelley feared for Courtney's life, and then go back to 2009 when Zach Smith was an assistant at Florida. He was arrested for aggravated assault on a pregnant female. Courtney was 10 weeks pregnant. It was on their 1-year wedding anniversary. Courtney dropped the charges, she told me, in part because Hiram DeFries, who was at Florida then and his official title at Ohio State now, is special assistant to the head coach. He pressured her to drop the charges. She went through with it, decided to drop the charges. During that time, Urban said at Big Ten Media Days that him and Shelley counseled the young couple back in 2009 to help them out. So let's fast forward to 2015. Shelley Meyer is aware that domestic violence issues are now prevalent with Courtney Smith, and now she's not going to tell Urban when they just counseled the couple 4 or 5 years ago. That, with all of these text messages and the fact that literally everybody in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center had to know about it, I find it hard to believe that all these people knew about it. Plus, you've got police reports from the Powell, Ohio Police Department that a reporter that's currently unemployed living in Tampa, Florida, such as myself, was able to obtain. All these people know about it, yet Urban Meyer had no knowledge of it. Rich, I just find that impossible to believe.
So then what's this? Is it just as simple then, based on, again, while you're just on the speculation
right.
as to why? I mean, is it just because he didn't want to do this to Earl Bruce's grandson? Is that essentially what it is? Because it's not like as if you can't get another wide receiver coach to win 73 out of 81 games, right? I mean,
right. Now, I've been asked that question a bunch, and that's literally one of two questions I would ask Urban Meyer is, why did you keep him? Because you know of what happened in 2009 when he first brought Zach Smith on his staff at Florida. That's because of Earl Bruce. He has said Earl Bruce is the second most important male in his life behind his father. That makes total sense. He was a grad assistant. He then left and went to Marshall and Temple. Meyer returns to coaching in 2012. He hires Zach Smith as wide receivers coach. Obviously, that was because of Earl Bruce. But then once these domestic violence issues surface again in 2015 and Courtney said actually 2014, then why do you keep the guy? Because you can get 1,000 guys. You can get, heck, you and I could coach Ohio State's wide receivers, and they'd still have the same production. He wasn't this unbelievable wide receivers coach, so why do you hang on to him? I asked Courtney that. She says, again, this is her opinion. She says Zach, not her opinion, but she said Zach told her that if this ever came out, and he went down, he would take everyone down at Ohio State with him. Is that an empty threat? Does he have actual information that could damage the program? I don't know. I asked Courtney, and she said she doesn't know specifically what he was referring to. Was that an empty threat? Does he legitimately have some things? I don't know. Maybe that's one reason he would keep him that long. I just find it hard to believe somebody that with the success that Urban Meyer has had would risk his career just because this was Earl Bruce's grandson, and this was the second time they've gone through this domestic violence issue.
Well, Brett McMurphy here on the Rich Eisen Show. I mean, unless Urban didn't think he was putting his career on the line, keeping him there. I don't know. You know,
yeah,
I mean, again,
that's a possibility. That would. So what you asked me if I had two questions to ask him, that would be one. The other one would be, why did you deny that you knew about it in Tuesday's press conference? Because that was, at Big Ten Media Days. Because Monday I reported about Florida and that Courtney had been issued or received a protection order. Zach Smith was prohibited from contacting her for the next 5 years. That had not been previously reported. I got that information from simple public record request. I reported that Monday morning. Ohio State said, we have a no comment. 5 o'clock Monday night, I reported the 2015 incident with the police report I had obtained. It was not public information. 50 minutes after that, they fired Zach Smith. Tuesday at Big Ten Media Days, Urban Meyer is asked about that. Urban says, I don't know why someone would create a story like that. I'm thinking to myself, I'm the one that created it because I've got the police report in my hand. He said he looked into it. There was no information. And so when I asked Urban directly later on Tuesday, I said, you said 2009 didn't happen. You said 2015 never occurred. Basically, I made up the story. Then why did you fire him 50 minutes after I reported it? The school had no additional information from my previous report Monday morning. So what changed between when I filed the second story and then your decision to fire him? His direct quote was, that ship has sailed, and he then said he would only discuss this year's team.
Wow. Brett McMurphy here on the Rich Eisen Show. So then last question for you here in this instance is, how do you think this does play out and when? Best guess.
Rich, the liability that Ohio State would have if they brought him back, and, we haven't even touched on a big part of it, in whether that's fair or not. Other people can debate that, but the reality is, how much of a PR hit is Ohio State going to take if they bring back a guy that's perceived as an enabler to domestic violence, especially, in today's landscape and how sensitive we are to those to that, and certainly what's going on currently with Ohio State, with former coaches and staff members, and what happened at Michigan State. I think ultimately they reach a settlement with Urban Meyer. I don't think he will ever coach again at Ohio State.
Brett, excellent reporting, and appreciate the phone call. We'll have you back on as this story progresses. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Rich.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.